I'm gonna turn the floor over here to Benny a minute or two. Let him say a few. We want to say a few words on behalf of the. Benny's lost his voice, but sometimes he can squeeze out a word or two. And
yes, no.
the very first band that I ever saw play this kind of music was Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs, and Benny Martin and Curly Seckler and Kentucky Slim, and it was at Chain of Rocks Park up above St. Louis on the Mississippi River, and that showed up in all them two-tone shoes, and it changed my life.
Change your shoe store too.
You can buy two, John.
Play something like play
All right.
I used to ask Benny, I said, because to me, the best band, the tightest band I ever heard was that particular lineup of Lester and Earl. And listen to those early morning radio shows, and I said, what were you thinking about? What were you concentrating on to make y'all play music like that? And his answer was always, he said, man, we didn't even know where straight up was.
Still rolling.
I'm gonna get Doug Dillard and Bill Keith and Wynn here to talk a little bit, because I know they love Earl Scruggs as much as I do. Douglas and I grew up together, and we used to take those Earl Scruggs records and slow them down and try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, we played them forwards and backwards and every other way.
Any hidden messages?
Bill?
Well,
I think we're all listening to those records, and maybe you all should still be listening to them. There's, slowing the stuff down, you can pick out which notes are which. You can get the notes on the paper, but you still will not have captured the essence of real Earl. You got to have the feeling and the drive and the timing, and that's not ever on the paper. As hard as I worked on the book of his tablature and as close as we could get it to accurate, we knew it wasn't all in there. You have to, the records come first and foremost and last. You got to hear that first, and the scratching on the paper is only a meager representation of what he actually does. So listen to those records most of all, and then you'll know what we're talking about. Maybe you already do. But it's great to have a model like that to, like Earl to work towards. And, nowadays there's lots of other players, but still Earl is one of the best models for a lot of things, including timing and tone. That's what I have to say. What about you, man?
Well, I'd like to say that these guys learned from slowing down records, and so did I. But I had the added advantage of Bill Keith's tabs, so for the Earl Scruggs book. So I'd like to say thanks for that, because even though the timing and the tone are important, it definitely opened the door for me for somebody that had no idea what was going on when I first heard Foggy Mountain Breakdown.
Well, I guess the only thing I can say, I first came down with Earl Scruggs when I was about 13, and it's kind of terminal, you know. Give you an idea, of course, we know the efforts it takes to play like that, and that's, of course, just a stepping point to hopefully developing your own style, which is your end goal, but just a different twist to that. Once you come down with this disease here, I've tried moving 700 miles away from this town to get away from it. I've been in Florida for 5 years, and I'm about ready to come back. It's, in this town, there's so much talent here, and this is the place to be, of course, and this proves it here. The talent sitting on this stage, there's more experience here than, what, 100 years worth probably if you put it together. And if any of you ever get an opportunity to sit down with any of these people here and take 10 minutes of their time, you will learn. It'll probably change your whole life. So don't come down with it though too much.
If I should wander back tonight. there any questions? Is this a concert or a workshop?
Concert.
Oh, so
Yes.
you get to ask questions during it? Oh, what?
No question.
No question.
Joking. Dear old Dixie.
How about that's a question?
All right. Douglas, kick off Dear Old Dixie. That's your tune. Yeah, go on. Put the hammer on. Lean into it there.
You already got that.
Little cabin home on the hill.
All right.
In fact, let's do Someone Took My Place.
Okay.
There's an old Flat Scruggs song called Someone Took My Place with You, done instrumentally.
Ready? Yes, sir.
Thank
Let's do it one more time. Might do it. That was it.
One more time.
Okay, one more time.
I want to get Benny to sing you one. Benny was a member of the Grand Ole Opry for 12 years and an excellent songwriter and big inspiration to me in all of his music, not just what he did with Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs. And I'd like for him to sing one of his songs for you right now called High School Love.
Hang on, baby.
It seems there's a longing for
G.
If Martin was soft dog, do G.
Somebody else want to kick this off?
This is our song.
This is our swan song? One, two.
I stand for a little down blues, great big hole in the bottom of the shoe. Honey, let me be your soft dog. Let me be your soft dog, round me, my love. Honey, let me be your soft. Now look here, Sal, I know you would run down stock a little rice. Honey, let me be your soft dog. Let me be your soft dog, round me, my love. Honey, let me be your soft. Well, pull the trigger and the gun said go. Shot fell over into Mexico. Honey, let me be your soft. Let me be your soft dog, round me, my love. Honey, let me be your soft. Pull the trigger and the gun said go, and the shot fell over into Mexico. Honey, let me be your soul. Let me be your soul, no, I will be your man. Honey, let me be your soul. Let me be your soul, no, I will be your man. Honey, let me be your soul. Win Osborne, Murphy Henry, Bill Keith, Doug Flint Diller, Benny Martin, Mark Schatz, Jim Rooney. Thank you very much. And thanks to Bobby Fulcher for putting this on.
I must apologize. I wasn't aware that I was even on the list when I came here. So the subject that we're supposed to be discussing is banjo adaptations. And admittedly, we had a little bit of confusion as to exactly what that meant, whether it was playing adaptations or instrument adaptations or what. I kind of assumed that because they had me on the list, it was instruments, but we'll just kind of take it as it goes and see what happens. Curtis McPeak is also on the list, and he came up with his 5-string, going to do some playing adaptations. Saw my stuff sitting here and took off to get his 6-string. Was it a 6-string?
12-string or 22-string?
Or many strings or something.
A
So,
lot of strings, though. Last I heard when he went out the door, he had a high number.
Eddie, you've been known for a long time for having an unusual banjo there, so why don't you tell everybody about it and what you've been doing with it over the years?
Well, this is the musical instrument that I play when I'm working with country bands, if they will allow me to have a banjo. And this has worked out very well. I've played this banjo. I've taken breaks in in acid rock volumes with David Allen Coe when he would go back to my twin reverb and just run his hand across the top knobs and turn 2 twin reverbs wide open. And the banjo, the nice thing about this design of this banjo is it does not ever sustain. It always sounds like a banjo, no matter how high the volume goes. It always remains a banjo because it is a banjo. It's an acoustic banjo, and that's why it sounds like acoustic banjo. In fact is, I had to go back to acoustic when I promised to come back to bluegrass music and keep it fairly well on the level. I did, but I was unhappy with any banjo I found because I had gotten my gitbow to sounding like even a little bit better to my ears than Scruggs' 1949 sound, and it was coming out of an amp, so I missed it when I had to come back to bluegrass and drop this thing and go to a lesser quality sound on the instrument and less power to do things with, you know. It's very easy to get lazy, however, when you're playing something of that nature. You know, when I came back to the real 5-string banjo, I realized I was playing lighter than I had in the past. But in this instrument, it's a resonating chamber just like a regular banjo. The only thing is this area is filled up with foam. It does not take anything away from the acoustics. That just controls the sound to a degree. The pickup is mounted in the bridge, and this is the first one I ever built. I've got another banjo that I built, but they wanted me to bring this out. The pickup's in the bridge. It's just a transducer pickup. That's all it is, and it's mounted in the bridge. The bridge is made heavy on the treble side because I wanted to compensate for the thudding and lingering sound that you get on a 4-string when you try to go to electric. So I made it heavy on the top side so that treble would sustain a little longer. The more mass you got there, the more it sustains. And basically, I have a stereo input here. It goes in here, and on the floor, I have. I didn't hook up. I didn't bring the hookups or anything because it's too much stuff to carry around when you got to work tonight at the station inn. So I come light today, but there's 2 switches on the floor. You can go to the Telecaster side, which is my own setup on the guitar also. It's a cross between a Les Paul and a Telecaster. The tone of it is right between the two, which that's my preference since I'm a banjo player and a guitar player too. That kind of brought it in. You can leave the banjo side on and get an extra effect when you're playing the guitar. Get a real unique effect by the other strings starting to vibrate from the sounds and start picking up and resonating. And you can do either one. You can do the banjo and have the guitar side start resonating, or vice versa. And it gives you a real strange effect. It allows you to sound pretty unique, in fact. And other than that, and I did this because of need. I'm tired of jumping from one to the other, and I built this thing. I was working on an electric band, so this is the thing I come up with. So that's about all I got to say about it.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions for Eddie? Okay. All yours, Daryl.
Oh, right. Well, I wasn't sure when I came whether it was music you were going to talk about, or play, or whether it was instruments. But you all know what this is, do you? We know it's a banjo, but that's just an English type banjo with G strum. Is played with the fingers, no picks required. It has just an ordinary banjo sound. But if we're talking about instruments that are different, I brought a zither banjo along, and perhaps has anybody not seen a zither banjo? Right.
Play music soundtrack for him.
I knew I could rely on Eddie to fill in for me.
Yeah, I had a soundtrack going for you there while he was...
This is a zither banjo. It was invented by Alfred Kameyer back in the 1870s, around about there. He wanted to produce a sound that had a more legato effect. In those days, of course, you only had gut strings, and it's very difficult to keep them in tune. They break pretty quick. And he developed this instrument and introduced steel strings, maintaining the gut string on the middle and staying with the silk wound fourth string. He did achieve his aims. It is an instrument that is not as staccato as the banjo, ordinary banjo as I term it, classic banjo as you term it. I think the easiest thing to do is to demonstrate the difference in the sound. Perhaps Eddie would give us a typical banjo sound that we might start with, and then just play a couple of chords, Eddie, and then I'll just...
Okay, well, I don't have a typical banjo unless it's plugged in there.
Say to that? Ping. Now, if you remember what that was like, the sound that Kameyer was after, which he found, was it's more gentle, it's not so rushed. In fact, he said on one occasion, people on express trains don't see much of the scenery. If you interpret that in musical terms, you could probably explain it as something like this. So I think that was one innovation of the manufacturer and changing the banjo that came off. The difference between that is that you can see that the back is filled in. Later on, of course, the resonator was added to produce a different sound. But if you fill, I think he put a chair on the back of an ordinary banjo to see if it would work, and it did. And then he developed it and made it pretty. So.
Was it considered more of an accompaniment instrument rather than a lead instrument?
It was to be a lead instrument, sure. Oh yes, yeah. He wrote about 200 pieces for similar to that, you know, to be a soloist. Remember, back then the classical guitar really wasn't popular. They had problems with the classical guitar. It did not project. You were down to purely an acoustic instruments, and the banjo could project. And that, I think, once the electrification came in, then of course that put the death knell on that. Yeah.
Is the tunnel fifth string specifically a British innovation?
Yes, Kamai used that. You can see you've got 6 Kamai guitar heads there. You've got a spare. You only use.
Aesthetic purpose.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
That was my question. Is how is that strung in tune? There are 5 part sequences. 5 strings.
5 strings. 3 of them are steel. The lower G is a gut or nylon, and then you have a silk wound bass, which is now it's a nylon fibre with a very fine copper wire woven around it. And the tuning is just the same. It's a G tuning with sometimes in this, like the one I've just played, is an elevated tuning to D. It disappears into the neck, and there's a little copper tube in there. It comes out here, and you locate onto that one.
Thank you. Curtis is sitting here with a banjo with 10 strings on it, so why don't you tell us about that banjo? Play it for us.
Is this one open? Okay. This is a brainstorm I had back in the 60s, Greg, and for everyone who's concerned. Back about, well, during the heyday or whatever heyday I've had of a recording career, all through the 60s I was considered a session musician in Nashville, and I did a lot of session work, and along with my other activities in the music business, and I just got this was just an idea that I had that I put to work, and I said, why not? I want to try it. So I just took a plain old, at that time, a 60s RB250 pot, and I had a friend of mine in Indianapolis by the name of Jim Faulkner, who is deceased. And I drew the neck out, planned it out to him, and he built the neck for me. It's just a slight bit wider than an ordinary 5-string, but very little. And it has 10 strings. It has, as you can see, 2 5th strings. And I got to playing around with the tuning on it, and I came up with a fairly standardized tuning that I use. My first records with it, I tuned a slight bit different on some of the strings than what I wound up playing it later after I more or less standardized it. You're very limited on what you can do. You can't make a lot of chords on it, right? You got to be careful in your chords or you'll get a bunch of dissonance in it. But it works real well on a lot of things, and I cut several records with it in the 60s, and I had one that really had me up in the air for a while. I had one that broke into the pop field for a little while, and with it. And one person asked me one time, he's a well-known banjo player, I won't call his name, but he walked up to me one day and he said, Curtis, how many times did you overdub that record that you got out? I said, it's not overdubbed at all. And but it sounds like, as one radio announcer in Nashville would say, it sounds like an acre of banjos. And I have the 5th strings are tuned in harmony. They're 1st and 5th, and on the tones. And I have 4 bass strings or rap strings on it. And strange sound, and I usually tune it to F position for the main reason, not so much stress on the neck. And it will go up to G, but you have a problem getting strings that will go that high and without working. Sometimes it's quite a chore to tune it. Tension fifth bass because there wasn't quite room for two geared pegs up there. Well, that's not perfect, but it's... Let's see, I play basically just plain old country things on this thing, bluegrass or whatever you'd like to call it, but just country things. Something comes to mind with it. I think one of my first recordings with it, I did this on also a record with it that did very well for me. When the movie Deliverance came out, we took the name of the river in the movies, which is called Kahulawasi Rapids. And I wrote a song and named it Kahulawasi Rapids. I recorded that. Then I took another old tune, which is nothing but Old Joe Clark. I twisted it around a little bit, and we named it after the Chicago Al Capone gang, which was Legs Diamond. And that's the title of it. And the records are still available today. I'm not pushing records, but in case you ever want to hear it, it's readily available. But here's the old Joe Clark, alias Legs Diamond, that I did with it. There's no secrets about it. It's just a plain old 5-string banjo with all the strings doubled and spaced like a mandolin. They're spaced closely in pairs, and the 5th string's also in pairs. And, it's a strange sound. It does not sound like an ordinary banjo. It's very different. Some things work real well with it, others do not. But that's about all I can tell you about it. But I've had it around for quite a long time. I haven't used it or recorded with it in quite a few years. It's been in the case. And when Mr. Fulcher approached me a few days ago about bringing it up here, I got it out of the case, wiped the dust off, and attempted to put a set of strings on. That's a chore too. And, but we brought it along just for some of you to take a listen to. It's very different. It has a harpsichord sound. Yeah. Sounds nice if you don't get too rough with it. Get a thrashing sound up of it. So much for that.
Any questions?
The strings are just doubled up. In other words, you got 2 firsts, 2 seconds. As it would be on a normal bass.
They're right now, the way this particular tuning is, they're all in octaves all the way across until you get to the 5th, and they're in harmony.
Like the bottom part of a 12 string.
Yeah. turn the strings, I'm careful to string it to where the pick is, hits the small string before it gets to the bass string. And I reverse them when I get over to the strings. I play with the thumb, I reverse it the other way, but the little string's on top and versus the bottom on the other side. But after you play around with it for a while, you learn which is more comfortable to play it and the best sound that you can get from it. Yes, sir.
Will you just scroll down on it from the thumb string, just straight down?
All right.
A little slower, like one string at a time.
All right.
Something else, there's nifty dissonances that are coming through. I thought it was from the tuning, but they're from the working league. Old Joe Clark sounds like Old Joe Clark, but there's some Chinese sounds in there. Where are they coming from?
That's some of it.
The open strings that are unite chording, or what?
That's some of my, I call them homemade thumb notes that I use. I'm sorry,
They're
but,
coming off the fifth, those Chinese sounds? Or what?
yeah, they come off a little bit of a Chinese effect on it. It's just the way it works out. It's strange.
That's not the instrument, that's you.
But you can do a straight tune with it. It works pretty good. Let's see.
Thank you. I guess it's my turn.
Yes, it is.
I don't play nearly as well as any of these other gentlemen up here, so I'm not going to elect to play. But I can tell you some about these three instruments sitting up in front here. I manufacture banjos. Well, they might like to hear the 12-string here in a minute. I've been making banjos for 21 years now, and one of the main things that I have is kind of a way of doing business is looking for all the needs that any banjo player has, because I learned real early on that there's no one banjo that's right for every single banjo player. If there was, there'd only be one banjo company in the world, and they would have made the same banjo for the last 150 years. But the truth is the banjo is absolutely the most patented instrument on the face of the earth. I've got a copy of every patent that was issued to the banjo. It's a stack of paper about that high. I don't think the piano has as many patents on it as banjos do. Everybody's wanted to improve on the banjo. And nowadays it's hard for us to understand that because the banjo is not the king it used to be in the turn of the century. But the one over here in the end is what we call our Crossfire. And we actually came up with that about 4 years ago, somewhere around there. Because I knew that there was banjo players out there that needed to be able to play a banjo, just like Eddie with his instrument, and play it loud enough to compete with electric guitars and drums and that kind of thing. And a regular banjo, no matter how you mic it, just won't do it. I'm a very traditionally oriented person myself, so this was even kind of far out for me. But as a business person, I decided that's what we needed to do. We first came out with it. We didn't get much interest in it, but we decided to be persistent. And now we've got people like Bernie Letton used it when he was playing with the Dirt Band. Roy Clark's playing one. And Bella Fleck's using one now with the Flecktones. And it's been really exciting to see it starting to get a lot more use and a lot more acceptance, especially since Bella's been playing it on television. The interest in the instruments just skyrocketed. Now, a six-string banjo like this isn't really new, you know, at all. It's been around for a long time, but we're currently the only ones really doing them now. We started doing them because customers were asking us to build them. The thing that's somewhat unique about these right now is not so much the instrument itself, but that we've managed to get them into the heavy metal rock and roll field. A banjo just like this was on 2 cuts of Joe Satriani's latest heavy metal album, and it's been used on 2 different issues of unplugged segments on MTV. And that's bringing the banjo to audiences that have absolutely hardly ever seen one before, let alone heard it. And that's, to me, the most delightful thing about it, is getting new people interested in the banjo. When we get kids 17 years old calling us on the phone saying they just got Joe Satriani's album and I gotta have a banjo, that's just really special stuff in my book. So that's what's unique about that instrument. Not that a 6-string is anything unusual. There's an old Gibson trapdoor 6-string back there. 6-strings have been around for a long time, but what they represent nowadays is getting the banjo into new markets. Giving an example, the 5-string banjo market and the 4-string banjo market runs 2,000 to 3,000 units a year for all of us, between Gibson, Deering, Stelling, everybody. It's in that range. Maybe it's 4,000 if Gibson, since Gibson's got their Granada and all that stuff going, they're making more than they used to. But compare that to the guitar market that was 1.6 million units last year. The banjo market doesn't exist compared to a market that size. So if we can get the banjo crossing over into bigger fields, will increase the audience and everything for us.
Pot the same as a regular banjo?
Yeah. A lot of the older ones had much bigger pots. We just haven't tooled up to try the bigger pots yet. So it's the ones we're doing are still a standard 11-inch pot. We make them with pop-off resonators or with a standard one-piece flange. Now this one that Eddie's got here is a 12-string banjo, and even that, as unusual as it is not brand new. They have never really been very popular. We've been told that Eddie Peabody played one at times, but we haven't been able to confirm that. We started building them because a gentleman named Barry Hahn out of Seattle was a 5-string banjo player, very fine player, and he injured his hand and couldn't finger pick anymore, so he started flat picking. And to get that banjo-y kind of sound, he picked up a 12-string guitar, tuned it at open G, and flat picked his banjo licks on it. And we got to know him when he was playing the guitar, and he called me up one day and says, I gotta have a 12-string banjo. That's just what I gotta have. So we built him one, and when he came down to play it, the music he made on it was just so incredible, we decided to make it standard model in our line. So why don't I show him how it sounds? there's certain tunes that would go really, really well on an instrument like that. It's a unique thing, and it's not an instrument everybody's going to rush out and buy. But we'll always have it available, and I think it'll find its way into a few recordings here or there, a few musicians' hands. We've sold, since we introduced it a number of years ago, maybe a dozen of them. You know, so it's not setting the world on fire, but it is real exciting.
It takes $1,000 just to build this tailpiece.
Yeah. Barry Hahn, the guy we built the first one for, had a real good friend who was a musician, and he made him a 12-fingered one, like the old Ottinger tailpiece with the individual fingers. He made one with 12 fingers on it. That was a monster.
It's like that, right?
Yeah.
Strings going in from the tailpiece to the front.
Well, that's, being a banjo maker and being able to do stuff like that's part of the fun of being in the business. I mean, we sold one to it. One of the ones we sold was to an individual that really loves Pete Seeger, and he's absolutely convinced that Pete needs to play one of these. And he follows. It doesn't really follow Peter around, but whenever he sees Pete Seeger, he shows it to him. He says, "You need to be playing one of these." So far, Pete hasn't called us, so I'm not holding my breath. But you guys are welcome to play these. I've got a little plug-in amplifier here if anybody wants to try the Crossfire. If there's anybody who has to come up after, I'll have them up there at the tent. So it's been my pleasure to share it with you. Anybody else have anything?
I had one before, but it was a piece of trash. This is really nice act.
That's one of the interesting things about six strings is most of the six strings that have been made in the last 20 years are real junk banjos. So people have decided that six strings are junk, but you get a good one from before, from the old ones, or you get one of the new ones and they're not junk.
No, the others were made like the K's and the Silvertones, and that's all the 12 strings I ever saw. All those weird instruments back in those days were made by people with a lot of money and no brains.
What's the opposite of that? A lot of brains and no money?
Now you got me. Is that possible? A lot of brains and no money?
Little bit.
Little brain, no brain. Get me too.
You're brainy out there and they're broke in hell.
Well, thank you very much.
I think the subject of this, I wouldn't mind having Doug cut the highs a little bit on my vocal microphone, just so I'm not quite so sibilant. That's great. Hey, that's a lot better. Thanks. The subject of our, I think, am I supposed to be doing this? I can't remember. Am I the moderator here?
I think, yeah, you've been on.
Is banjo blues, and you don't think of the banjo as a blues instrument, but to me, as I said last night, I think that there's a lot of similarity between the old-time banjo songs and blues. They had a complete statement in a verse, and sometimes it was a complaint of love or just some kind of feeling down or whatever. And so I think there is a lot of the same feeling. Doc Boggs was a friend of mine who picked the banjo back in the teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And people would say, you can't get blues on the banjo. And Doc would say, you can get blues on the banjo if you just know where to get them, where you go to get them, you know. And so he would play the blues on the banjo. So what I'm going to do during this little session myself is to try to play a little bit of Doc Boggs' blues, and then Bill Ellis will play on his, whatever you call it there, on his banjo guitar kind of instrument, and Pat Cloud will do the same on a 5-string of the fretted master tone variety. Let's put the worst on first here. I'll play a couple of songs, and then we should say a little bit something about what we're doing here, so we kind of make it into a workshop or something like that, and maybe some testimony from the crowd and things like that. This banjo was made by a friend of mine on the West Coast, a doctor, whose son was an old-time type fiddle player, and he saw a painting of a banjo that he liked the looks of, so he made a banjo that looked like the painting. And it probably sounds a little bit like it, except that instead of having gut strings, I have nylon strings because they last about 20 or 30 years longer than gut strings. So economically, it's a much better deal. Now, Doc Boggs played this on a supertone banjo, and then in 1928 he bought a Gibson Mastertone archtop. So this will be kind of like taking Doc Boggs, who had an archaic sound, backwards. Historically, not musically, I hope. It's the country blues. Come all you good time people, mighty good people. My friends come from all around. But as soon as my pockets were empty, not a friend honored to be found. Oh, my mama taught me a plenty good people. My mama, she told me more. Says if you don't quit your rowdy ways, there's trouble at your door. All around this old jailhouse is ain't it good people. $40 won't pay my fine. Corn whiskey has surrounded my body, poor, boy, pretty women has a trouble in my mind. Boys, if you don't quit your drinking, sometime you'll be just like me, working out your living in the penitentiary. Can't you hear my banjo ringing? Can't you hear its mournful sound? You'll hear my banjo ringing after you lay me in the cold, cold ground. All around this old jailhouse is ain't it good people. $40 won't pay my fine. Corn whiskey has surrounded my body, poor boys, pretty women's is trouble in my mind. Another piece that Doc Boggs did was that the Down South Blues. Now, he didn't learn that from a photographer, banjo picker like that last piece. He learned that from Homer Crawford, that kind of playing there, who was a Tennessee man back around 1910 or 15. Can you imagine a man walking up through those mountains of East Kentucky with a camera like that fella has out there on his back, going from house to house, staying with people, and then they'll ask him to play a piece on the fiddle or the banjo. Then he moves on after he takes those pictures and develops them. It's just an amazing way that people lived and got the music, but that's where that song came from. This came off of a phonograph record, though, and I've changed it around a little bit. I don't think I'm tuned standard. I guess I better leave it down here. It's the Down South Blues. I'll start out playing it kind of like Doc did, and then add the slide. I'm a going back sound. You gonna catch a I'm a going back south if I do not do so well. Oh, my mama told me, and my papa told me too. Don't you run off, honey. Let them women make a fool out of you. I'm a going back south if I wear a 99 pair of shoes. 'Cause I'm broken hearted, I got those down south blues. Oh, a little rough, but there it was, the down south blues. How about, yeah, some funk, some more funk here.
Well, this instrument here, I'm not really sure what it is, except it has 10 strings, sort of like a bantar, you know, banjo guitar, but it's also sort of like a 12-string bantar, which is even more bizarre. But I'm not a banjo player. I've been here mostly as the token country blues guitarist this weekend, and that's mostly what I do. And, so I'll give you some country blues. You know, something like this, though, isn't really outside of the realm of the country blues guitarist repertoire, because someone like Reverend Gary Davis, there's several recordings of him playing a 6-string bantar. And also, towards the end, he had taken to playing a 12-string guitar, so I guess this sort of brings the two together. Having said that, I'll now play a Texas blues. Let's see here. It's a song by Little Hat Jones called Kentucky Blues. He's in Texas the whole time. I don't know why he's talking about Kentucky. I guess he misses it. That wrong note's supposed to be there. Well, whilst we here trying to have our fun, when a law jumped up and said nobody run. Long gone from Kentucky. Long gone, yes, I got away lucky. Well, I left Seguin, I was out just like a submarine. Well, the woman poked her head out the windows a bit. She says, please don't let him kill Mr. Little Hat dead. Don't worry, Mama, won't be here long. Gonna let you sing this worrying song. Said I left Seguin, I was out just like a submarine. Well, I used to know a man, they call him Ulster Jack. The one who went with the bloodhounds right on my track. Well, the bloodhounds could not catch my scent. You know, they couldn't tell where that little hat went. Said he left Seguin, he was out just like a submarine. See me when I reached up and called that blind. There's another long gone from Kentucky. Long gone, yes, I got away lucky. Well, he left Seguin, he was out just like a submarine. Well, I don't play the dozen and neither the 10. And if you keep on talking, wanna ease you in. Keep on talking and you make me mad. Gonna tell you about the mothers that your father had. I don't play the dozen, I'm a clear man and neither the 10. I'm gonna sing this verse, ain't gonna sing no more. Wrestling an alligator up here with this thing. Well, I tell you, nothing's settled about this. I'll try East Coast tune now here. This is a song by Blind Willie McTell. This isn't entirely inappropriate either, because Willie McTell was probably the greatest 12-string guitarist along with Leadbelly, who played blues. This is a tune of his called Dark Night Blues. I've got the dark night blues and I'm feeling awful bad. I've got the dark night blues and I'm feeling awful bad. Say the word no Lord now, good man could ever have. I followed my fare brown from the depot to the train. I followed my fare brown from the depot to the train. And the blues came upon me like a dark night showering rain. I've got the blues so bad I can feel them in the dark. I've got the blues so bad I can feel them in the dark. Like one dark and dreary morning, baby, when you broke my heart. Oh. I got the blues so bad and whiskey when I sleep. I got the blues so bad and whiskey when I sleep. Say my brain's dark and cloudy and my mind gone to my feet. Got the Benford special, mama, and I'm leaving this town. The Benford special, mama, and I'm leaving this town. You say you didn't want me, Lord, I'm gonna quit hanging around.
Okay, all right, well, I'm very honored to be with these two gentlemen here. They sound like they're holding up a real blues tradition. I learned most of my blues off of records too, and first thing I'd like to play, let's see. I'll read to you. This is just a simple thing. It's sort of a three-finger country blues, I guess it'd be in sort of a bluegrass style type thing. And I've been having a lot of fun with it lately, and it's, I guess it sort of has a modal flavor to it, and it's called Wild Bill Jones. It's a three-finger country blues. just have to mash your hand on the wire right there, you see. This makes it sound modal. How about just a straight blues and A? I'm very awed at being up here in front of these legends here, so. Okay, he's gonna get his, I guess that's tuned up to pitch, isn't it? The guitar's tuned up to pitch? Or? Is the guitar tuned in pitch, or? Probably so, huh?
Well, you see, you can get blues on a banjo of a great variety if you know where to get them.
Exactly.
Where to go to get them. I'd like to ask a friend of mine. You know, there's a lot of wonderful banjo pickers coming along now in their 20s and 30s who are playing the old-time style of banjo in a fair number of varieties, but especially in the clawhammer style. Now, Paul Brown is one of those that plays in a variety of styles on the banjo, and he learned this song from his mother, who learned it over in Virginia as a blues, and Paul picks it on the banjo. This is played by Virginia blues players, African-American men of the Lynchburg area, where they had a bunch of blues players back in the 20s and 30s. Yeah. And it takes a special tuning that Paul has devised for this song, and we have done this song a few times, called Down to Tampa. And if I could...
This is old meets new, That's what this is right here.
This may be too much of a challenge.
Now, all right, now we're getting closer. This tuning for the banjo pickers here, it's just really the same tuning you use for Cumberland Gap. And when I was a kid, I really didn't know any of the tunings, but I just came up with this tuning to play this song. And later I found that the song it had been recorded by the Blue Ridge Institute. A couple of older black blues players had performed it right in the same area that my mother had been staying in a whole lot when she was a little girl. So the two people she learned it from were named John Calloway and Harry Calloway. They were two brothers in Bedford, Virginia area. And one of them moved out to West Virginia and was never heard from again, but Harry Calloway stayed around and played banjo and guitar. And since I didn't learn the guitar at all until I was in my late 20s, I just played everything on the banjo, and this is one of them.
Conductor, won't you please let me ride these lines? You got to have a ticket, don't you know this train ain't mine? I've got my ticket, and to tell you what I think I'll do, I'm going down to Tampa, settle down. Settle down, settle down, settle down. Settle down, settle down, settle down. I've got my ticket, and to tell you what I think I'll do, I'm going down to Tampa, settle down.
Do a piece and I'll try to come up.
To me, the ultimate, the first banjo tune that a lot of banjo pickers will learn is one of the ultimate blues tunes, I think. It's Old Reuben's Train. It just kind of hangs on a blue note most of the time. Let's see. And it really is a blues song, too. It's kind of the beginnings of Ruby. Saturday night, I'm 900 miles away from home.
Just look at the hole in the back of his head.